Okay, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our final presentation of the CDBG Grant Administration Workshop. And we're going to talk about project monitoring and closeout. You'll be hearing from myself, Rosie Goldich, the CDBG coordinator, and Erin Lee, our infrastructure project specialist. So, Erin, do you want to get us going?
Yes, thank you, Rosie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our CDBG Grant Administration Training Series. We thank you for attending today. My name is Erin Lee, and I am an Infrastructure Project Specialist for the Community MT Division with Montana Department of Commerce. I will be presenting today with my colleague, Rosie Goldich, our CDBG Coordinator. During this presentation, we will be discussing the Project Monitoring and Closeout chapter and toolkit from the newly updated CDBG Grant Administration Manual. I have a couple notes to cover before we get started. These presentations are recorded and will be available on our website shortly after the series has concluded. You can find these slides along with our Grant Administration Manual on our website. We will now show you how to find these materials on our website. Please visit commerce.mt.gov. Scroll to Infrastructure and Planning, Community Development Block Grant Program. Scroll down and select CDBG Grant Administration Manual. And here you will find our Monitoring and Closeout Toolkit down at the bottom, third from the bottom, excuse me. Thank you, Rosie. Please save all your questions until the end of our presentation, and we can go over them at that time. Next slide. Our agenda today will cover chapter updates with key points in monitoring and closeout. We will also be explaining our new monitoring and closeout toolkit. Next slide. An important update we'd like to share with you is our CDBG monitoring checklist has been revised. Commerce staff have reviewed and shortened the old monitoring checklist to 25 pages. This will be reviewed during monitoring visits between the grantees and commerce project specialists. Next slide. Key points Rosie and I will touch on in this presentation include an overview, on-site project monitoring, monitoring letter, project closeout overview, and grantee closeout responsibilities. Next slide. As an overview, our grantees' responsibilities. Grantees are responsible for administering their CDBG projects in accordance with all applicable state, federal, and program requirements. CDBG must be provided with reasonable access to books, accounts, records, reports, and files pertaining to CDBG-funded activities. Montana law states a grantee must provide members of the public with access to records regarding any CDBG funds. Next slide. An overview of commerce responsibilities. Commerce staff will monitor the project from startup through closeout, working with grantees and their administrators to meet compliance requirements. Commerce staff monitor each project with a local project manager through regular communication and required quarterly reports. Commerce specialists ensure grantees are following compliance through training, technical assistance, and mandatory project review. prior to closeout. Next slide. Additional Commerce responsibilities are staff monitoring of each project through regular contact with the local project manager and through the receipt of quarterly progress reports. Please refer to the Request for Reimbursement Toolkit for more guidance on this. Commerce must also be provided with reasonable access, as I said, during normal business hours, for all books, accounts, records, reports, and files pertaining to any CDBG funded activities. Next slide. On-site project monitoring. Commerce staff will schedule at least one on-site monitoring visit. If able, this will be one monitoring during project startup and is usually in combination with a pre-construction conference or other startup meetings. If a second one is available, that monitoring visit is going to happen, and ideally when construction has started. This visit will primarily review the grantee's files and visit the project site whenever possible. Again, it is recommended a construction request for reimbursement should have occurred prior to this monitoring visit. Next slide. The monitoring visit will be a planned review completed on site where project activities are being controlled or where project records are kept. An example of this could be the local community location, such as the town hall or a community facility. Commerce will use the updated monitoring checklist to review the grantee's files. Please visit CDBG Project Monitoring Guide found in the Project Monitoring and Closeout Toolkit to review. Next slide, please. Prior to monitoring, Commerce staff will coordinate a time and date with the grantee and administrator. Please note, this is not an audit from Commerce. I like to refer to them as a conversation among friends. The purpose of Commerce monitoring visits is to ensure Commerce files and grantees files contain the corresponding documentation in case of an external audit for both parties. Next slide. The CDBG Project Monitoring Guide covers the key requirements discussed in this manual and serves as the format for Commerce review of local projects. Those key requirements are providing technical assistance, record review, inspection of grantees' progress in completing the project activities, meeting with project manager, local officials, and citizens involved in the project. On-site monitoring visits may also include an informal recap of the file review with local officials and staff to discuss any outstanding issues identified. Commerce may describe their tentative conclusions and indicate the level of concern, if any. Commerce will discuss issues they intend to address in the formal monitoring letter. The overall goal of the Commerce meeting is to assist grantees in achieving timely and effective grant management. Next slide, please. These next slides will go over the sections of our updated monitoring checklist. The project monitoring checklist will contain the following: Section A, project information. This identifies the names of the local project manager, which is typically the grantee's contact for the project, as well as the grantee's address and location of the project. Next slide. Section B, project documentation and financial management. This will recognize contract documentation, such as CDBG documentation, engineer, contractor, etc. Financial system or systems, bank account, type of expenditures, and their processes. Next slide. Section C, civil rights. This discusses whether the grantee has copies of the Fair Housing Resolution, Hatch Act Resolution, Equal Employment Opportunity Policy, and ADA Self-Evaluation Inventory Transition Plan, or more specifically, the Section 504 ADA Compliant Resolution Procedures and ADA Form. Next slide. Section D, environmental, which contains copies of the environmental review, the NORIF or FONSI NORIF, depending on your level of review, proof of the environmental publication, agency comments, and release of funds letter provided by your project specialist. Next slide. Section E, sample procurement for non-construction services. These will include an affidavit of publication for both engineering and grant administration, along with Section 3, which references the disadvantaged, minority, and women-owned business enterprises, also referred to as DB, MEB, WEB. Next slide. Section F, construction, contractor, and contract procurement. This will confirm if the grantee has the contractor affidavit of publication, Section 3, again, which refers to DB, MEB, WEB, and all executed bid documents. Next slide. Section G, construction management and labor standards. We will review change orders, correct Davis-Bacon wages, the WH-347 US dual payroll form, and complete labor interviews. Next slide. Section H, uniform relocation assistance and real property acquisition for federal and federally assisted programs. This we will touch base on acquisition displacement of persons and business, as well as the Uniform Relocation Act. Next slide. Once we have gone through the monitoring checklist, Commerce will provide a post-monitoring letter to the grantee within 30 days of the visit. Commerce will aid the grantee in avoiding or resolving any monitoring findings. Commerce will send copies of monitoring letter to the grantee's chief elected officer and grant administrator. It is Commerce's goal to work with grantees to identify acceptable solutions for resolving or avoiding a violation. The grantee will need to respond to each issue, if applicable, with reasonable and adequate solutions of its choice. Commerce will determine the adequacy of a corrective action and provide technical assistance as needed to ensure all issues are resolved. Next slide. The post-monitoring letter will contain the following general elements: description of covered topic, which includes files reviewed, Commerce staff who led the review, and date or dates of the on-site review, a description of statutory or regulatory requirements, and an explanation of the documents examined. Next slide, please. The monitoring letter will also include conclusions the reviewer reached, statement describing basis of conclusion, Commerce monitoring report, which will use the following descriptions when the monitoring observation is less than satisfactory. Next slide. Some of those monitoring descriptions include satisfactory performance. What is it? All documentation reviewed during the monitoring was found to be satisfactory regarding all statutory and regulatory requirements. For this, there is no response required from the grantee. Next slide. Concern. What is this? An issue that does not involve a statutory or regulatory requirement. However, can involve management or programmatic improvement consideration, which transpires during the monitoring visit. Next slide. An example of concern. The project specialist cannot locate documentation for the request for funds. There is no response required from the grantee for concern. Next slide. Question of performance. What is it? A question of performance is whether a violation of statutory or regulatory requirements has occurred or raised, and an informal discussion cannot resolve the issue. Next slide. Example of question of performance. A grantee's subrecipient does not post the required labor standards documentation at the job site and was not communicated as a requirement by the grantee. Next slide. Question of performance continued. A grantee is required to respond to a question of performance. Commerce will ask the grantee provide response 30 days from the date of the monitoring letter. Next slide. A finding. What is this? A specific and identifiable violation of statutory or regulatory requirement is identified and cannot be resolved. An example of a finding is the grantee did not include the HUD 4010 labor standards form when procuring the contractor and construction has begun or complete. Next slide. Finding continued. A grantee is required to respond to a finding. Commerce will ask for corrective action plan, which should discuss a strategy to avoid a specific mistake for future grants. The grantee will need to supply this to Commerce within 30 days from the monitoring letter. Next slide. Finding continued. Corrective actions should be designed to prevent a continuation of the violation, mitigate effects or consequences of the violation, and prevent any reoccurrence. Next slide. In the monitoring toolkit, you will find the CDBG monitoring checklists for all projects. If you have an economic development or housing project, an additional monitoring checklist is needed. Those additional checklists include CDBG monitoring checklist, economic development supplemental questions, and CDBG housing completion checklist. Should you have any questions on which monitoring checklist is needed for your project, please reach out to your Commerce project specialist. Next slide. In this final slide on monitoring, you will see links to our 3 monitoring checklists. If you experience any problems with these links or trouble finding your project-specific checklist, again, please do not hesitate to reach out to your Commerce project specialist. We are always here to assist you. This completes the monitoring portion of this presentation. My colleague, Rosie Golditch, will now discuss the project closeout. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin, for walking us through the CDBG monitoring details. I will now continue with the CDBG closeout process, including required documents and reports. We will start by reviewing the updated closeout documents located in the CDBG Grant Administration Manual's Closeout Toolkit. There are 3 primary closeout steps: completing the project completion or project closeout report, determining and meeting project auditing requirements, and completing the additionally required closeout forms and certifications. In order to ensure timeliness of closeout procedures, please remember to ask your assigned project specialist for assistance. Some of these forms are essential for staff reporting accomplishments to HUD and ensuring that federal requirements like Section 3 are being met. Located in the Monitoring and Closeout Toolkit that we previously traveled to, there is a new final closeout report that includes many of the documents we are going to review today. We strongly encourage you to review this report prior to being fully closed out, in order to be fully aware of the information required. Closeout documents can take time to compile and gather information. In addition, project specialists might reach back out to grant administrators for clarification or request other backup documentation. The first part of the final closeout report will assist how your project specialist reports CDBG accomplishment data to HUD. The National Objective Codes refer to how your project is CDBG eligible and which national objective your project is classified under. The majority of projects will be considered LMA, or low and moderate area benefit. However, for community facilities, they might be LMC, which is limited clientele. CDBG economic development projects could be job creation and/or retention. On the right-hand side, you'll see how we code your project in IDIS, which is our reporting system for HUD. Please ask your project specialist for clarification on which code to use. For projects that are considered to be area-wide benefit, the majority of water and sewer projects, you will need to report area-wide benefits information, including race and ethnicity of your community. There is other demographic data, including people over the age of 62 and low and moderate income status, that project specialists must report on as well. If you have any questions about how to find this data and confirm that you're getting it from a reliable and verifiable source, please work with your project specialist. If you are managing a direct benefits project, for example, a direct water or sewer hookup, please fill out the direct benefit spreadsheet included in the Monitoring and Closeout toolkit. If you are managing an economic development project, please complete the employee tracking and direct benefit spreadsheet found in the Economic Development Toolkit in the CDBG Administration Manual. Similar to the CDBG Public and Community Facilities application, at the end of the project, we must also collect low and moderate income data. This table is very similar to the one found in Criterion 6 of the CDBG Public and Community Facilities application, with some slight differences. There are instructions on how to complete this table included in the final closeout report for your convenience. A closeout requirement is to provide your project specialist with a final budget. This final budget will include any budget amendments that were created throughout the course of your project. If your project specialist has any inconsistencies with our records and what is reported in the final budget by the grantee, they will ask for clarification. Please ensure that this final budget form is filled out to the best of your knowledge. This is the final certification of the grantee. This document must be signed by the chief elected official or executive officer of the applicant, not the grant administrator and not a representative of the subrecipient. In the beginning of the final certification, please include the contract number, including any amendment numbers. For example, MT-CDBG-ED19-04C. Please read this document thoroughly in order to certify its validity. Separate from the final closeout report is the contracts reporting form, which includes 3 sections: employment, benchmarks, and DB/MEB/WEB reporting. First, let's start with the employment section. Please include all of the employers, including subcontractors, involved in the project, their role, for example, plumbing, roofing, or electrical, the total number of hours worked, the total number of Section 3 worker hours, and the number of targeted Section 3 workers hours. If you have questions about Section 3, please contact your project specialist to see if any of the contractors or workers qualified as Section 3. The total number of hours worked and the total number of Section 3 hours worked is required HUD reporting information. So please keep track of this information throughout the course of this project. Note, this form is an Excel spreadsheet. At the top where it says draw 1, 2, 3, or 4, if you have more than 4 draws throughout the course of your project, you can amend this spreadsheet to state which draw number you total to, and please indicate that it is your final draw. The second section of the contract reporting form is the benchmark section. Here, there is a list of activities that promote the inclusion and hiring of Section 3 workers. These activities range from holding job fairs, including Section 3 language and procurement documents, hosting apprenticeships, or encouraging individuals to enroll in technical training in other institutions. If you are aware that your contractor has done any of these activities, please indicate as such on the benchmark section. Part 3 of the contract reporting form is the DB/MEB/WEB contracts reporting. As you can see here, Column A is requesting the contractor's Montana registration number, the total of the contract signed with that particular contractor, the type of trade, the business ethnicity, racial category, or gender code, the contractor identification number, the subcontractor identification number, and then Section 3 if they are qualified as a Section 3 business. Please also include the contractor or subcontractor name and address. There are instructions on how to complete Part 3 as a part of the contracts reporting form. If you have any questions or concerns while filling this out, please contact your project specialist. As previously stated, there are some additional closeout forms based on the type of CDBG project that you are managing. First is the direct benefit spreadsheet. This is found in the Monitoring and Closeout toolkit, and this is only for direct benefit projects. If you are unsure if your project is direct benefit or not, please work with your project specialist. There is also the CDBG housing completion checklist. This is only for CDBG housing projects and does not need to be filled out by public and community facilities, economic development, or planning projects. In addition to CDBG closeout requirements, there are also final auditing requirements to comply with state and federal regulation. First, is your community going to require a single audit or program-specific audit? It does depend on the amount of federal money spent by the entity during their particular fiscal year. If you are unsure of how much federal money has been spent during your entity during a particular fiscal year, please work with your clerk and auditor to confirm. You can also see 2 CFR Part 200.501 for more information for auditing details. All entities must comply with state audit requirements found in 2-7-500 and Montana Code annotated. There are file retention requirements for recipients of CDBG funds. All grantees must retain CDBG records for 5 years after the closeout approval date from Commerce. Your closeout approval date is included in the closeout letter that is sent after your project specialist has successfully completed all of our closeout requirements. For example, if your closeout approval date is February 1st, 2026, then you must keep records retained until 5 years from that date. These records include all of the details of your CDBG project, including application, environmental review, procurement, construction details, and closeout. If you believe that your project has created program income or used funds that are considered program income throughout the course of the project, a program income plan is required for CDBG project closeout. Please contact your project specialist if you have any questions regarding program income and how to report this particular information. We do also have resources available if you wish to create a program income plan found on our website. Thank you for joining us for the Monitoring and Closeout presentation of the CDBG Grant Administration Workshop. We will now take questions. You can either put them in the chat, in the Q&A feature, or you can raise your hand and we will answer them promptly. Thank you. Any questions about monitoring and closeout? Yes, Maureen, go ahead.
Hello, good morning. Can we ask questions about other things?
Sure, of course.
Okay, just, yeah. Um, the question I had, and I think I misheard this, and it was a couple talks ago, but the comment was, or the statement was, engineering in, within the project budget. And you said something about final design, or somebody did.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm asking for a repeat of that statement, if you know, if I'm making any sense.
Do you mean final engineering design and how it relates to your budget?
Yes.
Or okay. So final engineering design is considered an activity cost. Um, so if there do you have questions about what's allowed under that or what exactly that details?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Um, So, if you have an engineering firm on call, they've created a preliminary engineering report that was attached in your application.
Yes.
Then, as you walk through, the getting started and the special contract conditions, you do the environmental review. You ensure that the preferred alternative that was selected in your PER and included in the scope of work of the CDBG project. Um, you do the environmental review, and then you do your final engineering design, which will be more uh, particular to your selected alternative and might include an updated budget, um, updated materials list. I encourage you to work with the engineering firm that if you have one selected already on what exactly that engineering detail will include and what that cost will be. Like we've previously stated in in the request for reimbursement and um, yeah, I think in the request for reimbursement presentation, um, any budget modifications of over $5,000 need to be approved by Commerce. And so, if you do feel that you have not put enough money into the budget line item for final engineering and design, you can always amend that by going through that process.
Okay, thank you. I think
Mhm.
that was the
Okay,
last thing you said was what I think I really needed to know. Thank you.
of course. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks everyone oh, Maureen, do you have your hand raised?
I do.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, no, it's
Sorry.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just went, oh my God, I gotta ask this question.
It's
So,
okay.
let's, I guess what I'm asking here is kind of general. So we're let's assume that we're safely through startup and startup conditions and we're getting ready to we're ready to send Department of Commerce an invoice. Um, what is our time frame on uh processing time?
Sure. So I can talk a little bit about what our timeline is, and that might help answer your question. So, you submit a draw packet to us via the file transfer service or to your assigned project specialist, I should clarify. Um, you submit that. Your project specialist has a specific amount of time where they can review your request for funds. If there's any questions that they have, if they need clarification, if they see any ineligible expenses on your request for reimbursement, that's that 15 days. So they'll do that during that time. If they need further documentation, if a form needs to be updated, if something is missing, that 15 days starts over. And so it is 15 days from when the request is considered complete. And then your project specialist reviews it. Then it goes up to our accounting department. They process it and then send it back. So, and then send the funds to the grantee. So, we really encourage you, if you have any questions about eligible expenses versus ineligible expenses, to work with your project specialist prior to your first request for reimbursement. So that way you can ensure that all of the invoices you're sending to your project specialist have enough detail on them that they don't include anything that we cannot pay for, because that will slow down the request for funds process. So making sure that, all of the pieces that Erin and Linda went over in the request for reimbursement presentation are complete, and that that will really help, keep that process timely and efficient. But when the project specialist has to go back to the grantee and request more information or request additional documentation, or if the math doesn't add up, whatever the issue is, then that can obviously take additional time. And Maddie, in the question and answer section, asked, there was something mentioned about the project progress reports and reimbursement request. Is a project progress report needed with each reimbursement request? That is correct. Please make sure that with each reimbursement request, you do include that project progress report that's completely filled out. Yes, that is part of the required reimbursement packet. Good questions, everyone. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything else coming through in the chat. No one's raised their hand. So thanks everyone for joining for the workshop. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you got a lot of information out of it. As you heard us say numerous times, please make sure to work with your project specialist. My contact information is on the screen if you have any questions after this workshop. Erin's contact information, it is erin.lee. It is not elee. So it's erin.lee@mt.gov. But if you have any questions, obviously work with your project specialist. They are the experts on your project. And as previously stated, these presentations have been recorded. They will be available on our website for future use. And so please give us a little bit of time to make sure that these presentations are up, and they will also be on YouTube. And like I said, if you have any questions, please let us know. But thanks so much for joining today. Have a great day, everyone.